Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ episode 101, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. This week, we've got a fair number of questions recently on some outdoor folding knives. We're going to take a look at some of those questions, and we're going to find out what is the best kukri for food prep in your kitchen. Let's get into it. All right, everyone, welcome. As I said, if you are new to this series, we answer your questions, and the questions come from the comments section below this video. So if you want a chance for your question to be featured in the future, just leave it down below. And first question this week comes from Qui-Gon. Which do you think is the better outdoors companion knife? Victorinox Huntsman or Outrider? I've been carrying the Huntsman for over a decade, and I recently got the Outrider and have been pleasantly surprised by the utility of the larger saw and blade. Plus the Phillips screwdriver comes in handy too. I think either one, quite honestly, would be an excellent choice. For me personally, I'm a big fan of the Outrider. This is not my particular one, but when I'm picking out the Swiss Army knife that I'm going to carry when I'm going camping or anything like that, I typically pick my Outrider. However, the Huntsman is significantly more affordable. $84 for the Outrider. The standard Huntsmans come in, less than $50, or right around $50 now. Price has gone up a little bit recently, but still is quite a deal. And when we get right down to it, yes, you do have more reach on the saw and the blade on the on the Outrider. But again, you mentioned this is a companion knife, so you're probably going to have longer blade length already somewhere else. The Huntsman actually offers more implements than the more expensive model. We'll get into that. So what do you get with the Outrider that you do not get with the Huntsman? Well, for one, you get a locking main blade, which is definitely a boon in any kind of scenario, but especially an outdoor scenario, especially if an outdoor scenario turns into a survival scenario. Locking can be very nice. The cap lifter / pry bar tip is also locking, which can also come in very useful. Beyond that, you get right underneath the scissors here, you have to open those first, you have that small Phillips driver right there, which can be quite nice. Maybe a little bit less useful for outdoor uses, depending on what kind of gear you have with you, of course, but you don't get quite the same thing with the with the Huntsman. Keep my model name straight here. With the Huntsman, you get two blades, so you get an additional smaller blade. And actually, let me pull these out together here. I want to say, my gut is going to say that an actual amount of sharpened edge, you've got more blade on the Huntsman taken together, not in a single longer reach, but actual amount of sharpened edge to work with. You do have more on the Huntsman than the single larger blade of the Outrider. The other thing you get with the Huntsman that you don't get on the Outrider is the hook on the back there. Can be, depending on what you know how to use it for, could be less useful or more useful. Specifically for outdoor uses, these can be really helpful for pulling bootlaces real tight, potentially. Another trick I like to do is on your, if you're using tent stakes, you can tie a little loop on the end of the stake, not as part of the guy line, and then if you have a really stubborn stake, you can get in there with the hook, grab the loop that you've tied to the stake, and pull the stake out a little more easily because you got a good handhold. So that can definitely be useful too. The other thing I would say is, if you want an Outrider, there's one option. There is the red handle right here. And there's a little bit of kind of a matte texture to it. It's not as slippery as the Huntsman model or other typical Celador models. So that is an advantage. However, the Huntsman handle comes with a trick too. You can get it in some different colors, including blue, which is going to be typically a little easier to see when out in the woods if you drop it than the red would. Blue, it tends to be a little less commonly occurring in nature, so that's good too. Apart from that, the saw, the scissors, the other can opener and cap lifter combo, it's kind of the same between the two, except just a little larger on the Outrider. So all this to say, you can't go wrong with either. If you're going for sheer value for dollar, the Huntsman by a mile will win. A little bit more bigger work capability. The Outrider has it thanks to its larger size and the lock. A little bit of a toss-up. So all that's to say is I can't recommend the Huntsman enough. It's a fantastic tool. And yet I also carry, I typically choose the Outrider, even though I do have both myself as well in my collection at home and have carried both in the outdoors. So hope that helps. No right or wrong answer here. It's just a little bit of a balance between the two. Do you go for the extra capability or the extra safety of the bigger knife, or do you go for the extra functionality of the smaller, less expensive knife? Hope that helps. Genuinely, I hope it does, because I feel like that was not a very satisfyingly tied up answer there at the end. It's just sort of a, here are the facts, man, you know, type of.
We'll put a better one at the end of the video.
It's rather presumptuous of you. You don't know how this is going to end.
Not at all.
Next question comes from Hunter. Hey, DCA and reverse tom toe. That's you.
Sounds like we need to make some stickers.
Reverse tom, DCA and reverse tom toe. It's that's phenomenal. I love it.
Did we get our own comic book now?
Or at least a serialized TV show in black and white, hopefully.
Yeah. Animation.
Weird. That'd be phenomenal. I'm looking for a new camp folder under $150. I want something easy to open and close with one hand. I'm considering the Demko AD 20.5 or the Civivi Conspirator. Anything else I should be looking at? Oh, and don't worry, I still use my Castrum number 10 for quote-unquote real camp tasks. Well, that Castrum is an excellent knife. Great choice there for your main bushcraft blade. Nice, thick enough for some heavier use when needed, but not so thick that the Scandi gets completely unwieldy. I tend to think, you know, the thicker a Scandi blade is, the less useful it is at a broader range of tasks, but this one is an appropriate thickness, I would say. I wouldn't want to go any thicker personally, but very comfortable, very sharp out of the box, high quality. Let's look at the first two folders you mentioned. You mentioned the AD 20.5, which I think is a great knife. The 3V steel would be a very good choice for outdoor use. That a little bit of extra toughness can go a long way. And you also mentioned the Conspirator. I think both of these have blade shapes that I would gravitate towards and say would be a great choice, or would be something I might choose for an outdoors knife. But I probably wouldn't choose either of these. I'll get into why. The blade on the Demko, no complaints whatsoever. But the one thing where an outdoors knife to me differs importantly from just a standard everyday carry knife is you want a little more handle girth, a little more comfortable grip option, because the task that differentiates, at least for me, outdoor usage versus just standard everyday stuff is you might want to be using this for wood carving. And yes, you know, you do have your Castrum that's going to be very comfortable for those wood carving tasks, but in the spirit of, you know, 2 is 1, 1 is none, something may happen to this. And I would want my secondary blade to be able to do the wood carving stuff if I had to. As such, the good thing about these Demko handles are they're very slim and very easy to carry every day, but that works against it for me, for what I look for in an outdoors knife. So I wouldn't really pick that personally. The Conspirator is a little bit better. You do have a little more girth, and you know, I would probably consider this acceptable for me if I were making the choice. Price on it is significantly less too. Coming in about $80 for this version. You've got Nitro V blade steel, good stainless qualities, good toughness as well, for especially for a non-powder metal stainless steel. The micarta handle option especially would be something I would look at if I were going to use this outdoors, because of the extra grip it gives you. It's kind of a matte texture, and when sweaty or wet, it tends to feel a little tackier too, which is nice. And yeah, I might go for this. The button lock certainly works well. You've got the flipping action going on. A couple of the things that might be drawbacks for me is ball bearings in the pivot. If you're working outdoors, things are gonna get dirty, probably, at least the way I do it. The ball bearings can maybe get a little bit grittier in that type of scenario. So what I am going to mention, another thing you might want to look at, and because you mentioned stuff in this price range for outdoor use, and you chose 2 knives with finger-safe locks, I can't help but look to the Benchmade Griptilian. I've always said this is one of my favorite recommendations for an outdoor folder that's not too expensive. Especially, I mean, they used to be right under $100. That was a great price point, but we're about $126 now. That was like 8-9 years ago when I was doing those calculations. But about a 3.5-inch blade, good shape for outdoor use. It's got a mid-height flat grind, kind of a saber height there. Not super slicey, but not super chunky at the same time. It's a good middle ground, which if you're going to use a knife a little bit harder outdoors could be very useful. You've got the ambidextrous axis lock, finger safe operation, easy to close and open one-handed like you mentioned. Washers in the pivot, no ball bearings there, a little easier to keep clean, and a thicker, more neutral handle overall. Just one of the more comfortable and ergonomic handles for outdoor use. Which one do you get? Do you go with the S30V version or like this KnifeCenter exclusive with 20CV? You know, the inclination is to always go for the more premium steel option, which would be the 20CV right here. However, again, as I mentioned, I like toughness in an outdoor use folder. Neither of these steels are particularly tough in the grand scheme of things, but in comparison, the base steel, the S30V, will be a little bit tougher than your 20CV. Edge won't last quite as long, certainly, so everything's a balancing act, of course. About $126 for the base models right here. Comfy, versatile, and this is one of those shapes that works for way more than just outdoor stuff. It can do outdoor, EDC, hard use, and tactical all in one, which sometimes can be real hard to pull off. All right, next question comes from Magic Kraken.
Aren't they all?
Are they magic or mystical? Anyway, howdy KnifeCenter. I just got a new job and want to get a little more pricey knife, but I'm wondering what companies have the best warranty. This is an interesting one because it's kind of, there's degrees. Like pretty much everyone nowadays is pretty good, right? I can't think of any that stand out as being particularly terrible, at least none that I've personally experienced. And you didn't say folder or fixed blade. So I'll mention a fixed blade thing first because in the fixed blade world, one company especially rises to the top as having a reputation for just a phenomenal warranty, and that would be Essie with their literal, they call it their no questions asked lifetime warranty. And they kind of like to joke about it a little bit. If they get something that looks crazy mangled and makes them really scratch their heads, they may ask a question, but they're still going to warranty it for you. Tons of great fixed blade companies and smaller fixed blade makers, LT Wrights, K-Bars, Tops, that have great warranties. But Essie gets this like outsized reputation as being particularly good. On the folder side of things, I don't know if there's as obvious of a standout in the way that kind of Essie has, owned that identity. I ran it by Seth V, my occasional co-host here, to get his take on it, and his thoughts he said either Chris Reeve or Benchmade, he thought. Certainly both have good warranties. Benchmade will sharpen things up for you even, no problem. They advertise that very readily. Chris Reeve's stuff, they can make your knife looking like new with their spa treatments real easily. But again, tons of great companies have really good warranties, quite honestly. Me personally, I might prefer, like if I'm looking into the companies, I'd like to, again, this is a personal choice. I like to know that if I need to send it back in for something, I can send it to an address in the US, since I'm living in the US as well. Maybe it's a little added peace of mind that could help, but I don't know. This is where I'm going to throw to the comments. Let us know your warranty experiences. Who's the best? I know some folks have probably had negative experiences with warranties. That's going to be out there. Let us know. Maybe we'll get some consensus from the comments this time.
Wisdom of crowds.
Crowdsourcing the answer. The law of large numbers says these companies have the best warranties. You're gonna have a hard time finding you say a more pricey knife, right? I mean, you didn't mention a budget, but the more expensive you get, typically the companies stand behind their stuff even more than some of the less expensive stuff, especially, well, yeah.
It's part of what you pay for.
It's part of what you pay for, so you probably have nothing to worry about.
We're not lawyers.
We're not lawyers, and none of this should be construed as actual advice. But it was interesting to think about. Yeah, I mean, is there a folding knife company from the warranty part of things that is analogous to Essie on the fixed blade side of things?
There's probably one guy who made one knife, and he just has 100% success rate.
Yeah. He'll chime in below. And now we're coming to the lightning round for today. C. Brotler asks, thanks for all the great videos and knife knowledge. You're welcome, and thank you. Question, what knives do you really want to highlight but are always out of stock at KnifeCenter? Well, I mean, we'd love to show you, but... Next question comes from Gretov. Congrats, guys. Oh, this was on our episode 100. I really like these videos. Keep it up. We will. Just try and stop us. Very nice MKM, by the way. I have a fun question for a future episode. He's talking about your MKM, the survival knife slip joint.
Did you make it?
I forgot to edit this question down to just the question, so sorry for the excess. This is supposed to be the lightning round. I have a fun question for a future episode. How many knives is it okay to carry? My non-knife friends think I'm crazy for carrying 3 on me at all times. Well, as I commented in the original thread, Thomas carries 4, and he's definitely not right.
I just grabbed a 5th.
You have them all in your pockets right now?
Yes.
You heathen. All right. I have to go in and edit that answer now.
Oh, well.
Now we come to our most serious question of the day, which is actually in 2 parts. First, it's been a couple weeks since we talked about our friend Austin Freiberger, who wanted to know what was the best steel for someone named Austin. And several people chimed in with what is the true answer that was way too on the nose, which is why I didn't go it. So here's Austin's comment again. He said, I was fishing for the AUS-10 answer, but I'll have to sit down and decipher what the correlation between Austin and S35VN is. Because you remember, S35VN is the best steel for someone named Austin. Because someone named Austin already made that choice. I think there were like 2 people I can remember that actually made the connection and got it right. And that was the Cold Steel Broken Skull. Was originally, this is not the Broken Skull, they don't make that anymore. This is the Range Boss. It is the same shape, but less expensive. The Broken Skull was originally made in CTS XHP, and then they switched it over to S35VN at some point. So clearly, Stone Cold Steve Austin, whose name was attached to that knife, thought S35VN was better for him. That means it's better for you too, Mr. Freiberger.
Was it stonewashed?
No, they were black coated, if I'm remembering correctly.
Shame.
Stonewashed Steve Austin. And now our true
Stonewashed Cold Steel Steve
Stonewashed Cold Steel. Wow, there's a lot. Ooh, man. I can't even wrap my brain around that. I'm gonna have to write it all out before speaking that one. Which brings us to our actual most serious question of the day, which comes from Christopher Williams. I just watched the Cooking with Kukris video and was wondering if there is a proper kukri for the kitchen. Well, we did have a choice, and then something happened, and then we had a safety meeting, so no, there's no longer any kukris in the kitchen, unfortunately. Not here at the KnifeCenter, anyway.
Thanks a lot, OSHA.
Yeah. Thomas, what was your choice?
Cold Steel Chaos.
Yeah, the Chaos Kukri. They don't make that anymore, though.
So we got you in Ontario.
Not actual advice, remember?
Excellent sandwich spreader.
Actually, man, you could spread the heck out of some peanut butter with this, man. You could do like a row of 4 sandwiches at once.
Spread the biggest hoagie.
Anyway, that is all I have for this episode of Knife AQ. Make sure to keep leaving your questions down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of the answers. Chime in with your warranty stories, the good, the bad, the ugly down below. And if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, you'll check out the links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Don't forget about our Knife Rewards program while you're over there, because if you're going to buy one of these knives, it'd be great to earn some free money to spend on your next ones. I'm David C. Anderson from the KnifeCenter. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.